Hello everybody, this is Targaleo here. This game I'm doing another replay commentary. I'm playing Sylas, mid lane versus Qiyana. So, this game I decided to start Darkseal. Normally I start Doran's Ring, but my team wanted to be really aggressive. My Graves was talking about how we should invade the Fiddlesticks, and I thought, okay, I was also thinking about how we might have a level 1 fight here, and I was like, okay, maybe I'll get a couple kills early, I'll go to the Darkseal. Just means I have to be a bit more careful with my mana. Let me just change the Fog of War to a red side only. Fortunately, nobody really shows up. Now, I did put a point in my E here. Normally, I start Q, but into Qiyana, I actually like starting E because Qiyana is very bad level 1. She basically doesn't have an ability. If she starts W, which most of them do, she has no active ability. She just gets slightly stronger auto attacks. She starts Q, it barely does any damage. So E is actually pretty good into Qiyana. Also, since we were invading, I just wanted to level up my E just in case someone came. Nobody ended up coming, but still all good. I did end up missing my E there. Try to go for a trade. Overall, it's still worth. I got first right gold. Did about equal amounts of damage. Could have been a bit better if I aimed my E a little bit better, but it's fine. Now, I did go W level 2. Most of the time, when I start Q, I always go E level 2 because it's just, you kind of need to have your E by level 2 for the mobility. W level 2 though, into a matchup like Qiyana is pretty nice. Just helps you trade better, and I don't really need the range. Here, I saw Fiddlesticks was in our jungle, so I did end up going and killing him. Since we invaded his red buff, he tried to vertical jungle, take the red buff, and I ended up getting the kill. Now here, this could have been another kill since Qiyana didn't have flash, but unfortunately, my E ran out, my E2 ran out right as I tried to activate it. So, didn't end up getting that. Also missed a cannon, but overall it's not too bad. I got Darkseal stacks from the Fiddlesticks. Qiyana has no flash. Fiddlesticks is pretty far behind. I have a blue buff, so not having Endurance Ring is actually doesn't really matter here at this point. I'm just kind of keeping the wave somewhat even. And I try to go in here because I'm 2 levels up on her. Unfortunately, I hit the minion. That probably could have been easily avoided, but went to roam down to help my jungler and my support kill the Fiddlesticks. They didn't need help, but it's still good to roam. I'm not doing anything mid lane because I already pushed the wave in. You see, I didn't miss any minions. So there's no point in not roaming down to help. Didn't end up doing anything for me there, but could have been potentially needed. Got a nice trade there with the W. Qiyana's early game, it's pretty easy to play into because her damage is not really that much compared to your healing. Now here, I did walk up. I got a little bit overconfident because, as I said, her damage isn't really that high, but when I got ignited, it reduced the healing. And since I was already about half HP, she ended up being able to kill me. So that was, I just completely underestimated her. And more so the ignite damage and the grievous wounds. Got all this yes under tower. Just using my abilities to make sure I get the passive procs and landing the last hits.
Killing spree.
Qiyana's missing, so I started autoing the melee minion. I like to do that before I do my wave clear combo, just to see. It does help me push the wave a little bit, but it also gives time for the enemy to show up, so if they actually are close by, they'll usually show up if you just auto the melee minion a couple times. And that way you don't go in, waste all your abilities, and then surprise, the enemies are all there. Now here, I could have ignited, but I wasn't actually expecting him to be there, and I especially wasn't expecting him to be that low on HP. So it's kind of a surprise that I was actually had kill potential there, and I just wasn't able to ignite in time. Now here, I actually did not ping the Qiyana missing. That's just a complete misplay. Fortunately, it doesn't end up mattering. Volibear is pretty strong, but and they also had a control ward in the bush. But that definitely could have gone a lot worse. Always make sure you're paying attention to where your laner is, and make sure that you're not really putting your team at a disadvantage by having them roam all the time without warning. There, I knew Qiyana was walking back to lane from topside because she was just top, so being able to camp a bush like that, especially from a weird angle like that, Fiddlestick's ult definitely allowed me to do something like that. And just popping the ult and one-shotting her just provides a massive lead for basically doing nothing. If you can, if your laner roams and they're walking back to lane, see if you can try and stop them. You can either get a kill or you can delay them. You can make them walk around a long way. There's a lot of stuff that you can do, assuming that you're strong enough to actually contest them. Now there, I wasn't paying attention where the Fiddlesticks was. I assumed, because my Volibear and Karma are currently in their jungle, so I was just thinking, just looking at the mini-map, I'm like, okay, I'm pretty safe. This Fiddlesticks can't be near me because my team is in his jungle and he's not there. And I just didn't think about the fact that he could have just walked around and ulted from a weird angle. But against Fiddlesticks, you always gotta play safe. If you see him on a side of the map, you gotta play towards the other side because this ult has very long range. And getting hit by something like that is basically almost guaranteed death if you're not paying attention. Since I know Fiddlesticks just ulted, and I know Qiyana probably went back, I'm not really afraid of just instantly doing the wave clear combo there.
Killing spree.
Here, again, I'm just roaming to help my team, get the Qiyana ult. Pretty easy kill on the Fiddlesticks. If Fiddlesticks gets jumped on, he's very weak. So if your jungler is playing super aggressive, definitely follow them. One of the best tips I have for playing Sylas with basically any jungler and against any jungler or mid laner is try and play for your jungle. You do a lot of damage and you have a lot of mobility. And that is very strong in early jungle fights and can help you and your jungle snowball. So fighting over Scuttle Crab in the river or something like that is definitely something that I like to do. And there, Qiyana got a bit overconfident. I kind of baited her with the recall. I knew I had my E coming up, and I was just paying attention, making sure I was able to get the E off if she tried to jump on me. Now there, I definitely panic E2'd. If I had thrown that in any direction that was close to the Fiddlesticks, I definitely could have killed him and lived. But fortunately, I was in Fiddlesticks ult, I was taking continuous damage. I panicked my E2, ended up getting the kill anyway, but Nautilus was able to kill me. At this point, I know Dragon's up. I know my team, my jungler's bot side, my team is looking for maybe a Dragon or bot lane play. So here, I'm just going into the jungle. I realize, okay, my team's not going anywhere, so I'm going mid. Having mid prio when you're trying to do Dragon is very important. So me clearing this wave and then being able to roam bot lane is very strong here. If Qiyana wants to roam, she misses an entire cannon wave. And since she doesn't want to miss the cannon wave, she ends up not being able to come. Wanted to jump on the Varus here. Not sure if he actually had a bounty because I think he just died, but during this game, I thought he had a bounty. And I ended up kind of inting here for him. He ended up having his flash. Tried to make a play, but unfortunately he was expecting it, and I ended up getting one shot. Fortunately, my Graves is able to secure the kill afterwards. Does get executed, but at least there was no kill credit there. At this point, we're 13 minutes in. I'm able to have my Everfrost. I have Sorcerer Shoes. I have Hextech Alternator. Normally, I prefer to buy Needlessly Large Rod over Hextech Alternator when I can. Those are the components to Shadow Flame. But I didn't have enough gold, so had to go with the Alternator. I'm coming bot lane here because my bot lane is mid lane. So I'm just going to come bot lane and rotate with them. It's nice to side lane like this. Gives your team more pressure over the middle of the map because you have your bot lane there. In that fight, I did just play pretty safe. Riven was 0-4, but it is a Riven. I didn't know if she had Ignite up or not, so there was definitely a chance she could have killed me there. There was no really rush for me to go in and use everything on her, so I kind of just waited back for my cooldowns to come back up. My bot lane does end up dying to the Qiyana, unfortunately. Since I do have the Everfrost, I was sitting there, pink warded the bush just to make sure nobody would have vision. If someone did come along like the Fiddlesticks, I could Everfrost him, then Q him, and then EW, E2, plus passive autos. It's basically a guaranteed one-shot. Riven does end up coming back to lane. I don't want to go back in on her because she could have Ignite back up, she could have ult back up. She didn't use either of this before. I just go back, grab the Needlessly Large Rod, and head back bot lane.
team's turret has been destroyed.
There. I figured I had a back. I had Needlessly Large Rod, 200 AP. I was very strong. Fortunately, do end up dying to the Fiddlesticks there, but he did have to use his ult for that. One thing about fighting Riven, Riven ult is actually very strong. It might not seem like that because it's not very flashy on Sylas, but it increases your attack damage by about 30%, I believe. And your passive auto attacks scale with 130% of your AD. So taking Riven ult and activating it actually makes your passives do a lot of damage. Plus the reactivation it definitely does a solid amount of damage. So at this point, I have my Shadow Flame. I'd like to buy Sweeper at about 1.5 items. That's sort of the time when you can start one-shotting people, so being able to go around their jungle unnoticed, or at least ensure that you're not in vision, is quite powerful. With the Shadow Flame now, I'm definitely able to do a lot of burst damage. At the same time though, I'm sitting on the right side of that lane pretty carefully because I know Fiddlesticks was somewhere near top side. And his ult, again, has a really long range. I gotta play really safe. He could ult me from the location he ulted me before, and I'd be kind of doomed. Now, since I see 3 of them top, I'm not actually afraid of Fiddlesticks solo ulting me, like just by himself. So since I see Qiyana's really far away from me, 3 of them are top. I know the only one not on the map was Fiddlesticks, and I'm not actually afraid of him when he's by himself. So there's no point in hiding. They ended up taking the Verisol, another extremely good ultimate. Does a massive amount of damage and has pretty good crowd control. I tried to do some flash play, unfortunately it didn't work, but Volibear does end up getting the kill. There, because I have Qmax, I'm actually able to do a lot of damage there. She was dead anyway, but it's just nice to be able to kill her while she's invisible. The E2 crowd control into the root from Everfrost is very powerful, allows you to land both parts of your Q.
Blue team's turret has been destroyed.
At this point, I'm 9 and 5, 5 Dark Seal stacks. I have a Shadow Flame, I have an Everfrost. I'm very powerful. I know my Volibear's 8-0, he's also very powerful. But unfortunately, the rest of my team isn't as powerful as me. So I do have to be careful that I need to play this pretty well because my team is relying on me. There's another example why Sweeper is really good. I would not have been able to stand in that bush if I did not know that it was not warded. Varus did ward it when he came up to it. But if that had been warded before and I didn't know, then Varus could have ulted me from a long range. I probably could have dodged it with my E, but either way, it's pretty risky. Sweeper ensures that they have no vision. It means I know I can stand in there, risk-free, and then Varus has to walk up into my E range and my Everfrost range to pink ward it, which he did end up doing because my team was fighting bot lane. So I just intercepted his pathing and was able to get a free kill. At this point, I went back. I had, I believe, about 3,400 gold. Bought a full Zanya's. Probably should have backed earlier, but ended up being okay. I did look at their items after Zanya's. I basically build the first 3 items the same every game. Everfrost into Shadowflame into Zanya's. I like to buy boots in between my Everfrost and my Shadowflame. After my Zanya's, I like to see, okay, does the enemy team, are they building magic resist? This game, they were not building magic resist. Basically, no one on their team had magic resist except for Nautilus. So my 4th item is going to be Death Cap. If they are building magic resist, at least, you know, 2 of them maybe, or maybe 1 very high priority target, I like to go Void Staff 4th, and then Death Cap 5th. This game I decided to go Death Cap 4th, because they weren't building any magic resist. Again, we know Fiddlesticks is probably hiding somewhere near their team, so we gotta be really careful. Just standing up here trying to stay away from the fight. If you can play around the fight and get them to use their main abilities on the rest of your team, then you can snowball a fight. There I had a pretty good Fiddlesticks ult. Unfortunately, I had to get bursted down before I could activate my Zanya's, but it was able to damage the enemies a lot. My team ended up getting a couple kills from it. At this point, I have 1 needlessly large rod. I'm pretty strong. I should probably have about 343 AP, would be my guess. I feel like that's a common number for me to have. My Volibear's 9-0. He's extremely strong. The rest of my team is not doing as well. Karma's still very useful just because it's Karma. She has Shirelia's, so that's very useful. But in team fights, if Volibear's not there, because he's been in a side lane a lot, it's going to be my job to sort of lead my team and do most of the damage.
Shut down.
Unfortunately, my Volibear does end up kind of griefing. He stays a bit too long and gets collapsed on. Fortunately, while he's dying, we just end up taking the dragon, so it's all good. Again, I'm trying to side lane bot lane. I walk around into the bush because I know if someone walks up, I can one-shot them. I have 364 AP. That's pretty close. But basically anyone that walks up, I can vaporize. And I end up one-shotting the Riven. I didn't even use my E2. She just instantly died. She is 0-8, but the combination of my Q2 damage plus my W damage just ended up instantly killing her. Now here I'm playing very far back because I had no enemies on vision. As soon as Nautilus and Qiyana showed, and especially Varus in top lane, I instantly started pushing again. But because I'm pushed pretty far up, I had no vision of the enemies before. I can't really walk up like that or I might die. And here I'm standing on that side of the turret because I know Fiddlesticks could be over that wall, which he was. Fortunately, don't end up killing him, but I had a feeling Fiddlesticks was the only one not on the map. I figured he'd probably be over the wall and ult me, so I stood as far away from the wall as possible. I knew his ult would still be able to reach me, but when I stand that far away, it makes it very hard for him to W. Here, I came back to help push, even though I was 1 HP, because I saw every single enemy that was alive was on the opposite side of the map, so there's literally no threat to me.
Blue team's turret has been destroyed. Shut down.
See, this game is a lot about noticing enemy positions and playing around where they can be on the map. Especially when you're against the Fiddlesticks. It's very hard to push up when you're against the Fiddlesticks because he can ult from anywhere, but as soon as I see, you know, 2-3 enemies on the opposite side of the map, I know it's a lot safer for me to push, and I'm able to actually go and start side laning like proper. And here, I did get my death cap. I had about 2,200 gold, I think, when I backed. Sold my Dark Seal for death cap. I did have like 6 stacks on it or something, but it's completely worth. I'd have 544 AP now. Took a couple camps to hit level 16. I was pretty close. Sylas spikes very hard at level 16 because his ult cooldown gets substantially lower. Plus, it gives you the rank 3 version of ultimates, so any ults that are good at rank 3, they just get even more stronger for you. Had the flank on the Varus, took his ult. Unfortunately, he did have his flash up, but getting the flash is definitely not useless. Here, I did kind of want to reset to refill my health bar, but enemy team saw me recalling, and if they know that I'm recalling, they might collapse on my team. So I did have to stop. Now here, I'm looking for a flank position. I know their team wants to go to the Baron, so I'm dashing over that wall. I end up destroying their backline. That's one thing. If I was with my team on Baron here, I don't get those 2 kills. We still might have won the fight. I think we're a lot stronger than them, but it would have been a lot closer. Since I was looking for the flank there, and that's one of my favorite flanks is over the blue buff wall, because if you are on red team and you're doing Baron, enemy team will either walk through. Let me just pan the camera there. They'll either walk through here, or they'll walk through here. If they walk through here, you can sit in this bush right here and be prepared to combo them if they come up. Maybe just a simple poke combo like Everfrost plus Q. Don't need a full engage. If they're coming from over here and your team's in this area, you can dash over this wall right here and flank them like I did in that last fight. As you see, I did end up going back here. Enemy team does surrender, so there's not really much else to show. Something with my build, I did end up building a Warden's Mail here. I was going to build into a Frozen Heart. Normally I would not do this, but I had a pretty good reason. If you look, enemy team has no magic resist at all, except for Nautilus, which doesn't really matter, he's their support. So, since they have no magic resist, normally I'd go a Void Staff last item, but I'm already doing true damage to most of them because I have the Shadow Flame plus the Sorcerer Shoes. Void Staff only gives 65 AP. It's a little bit higher with the death cap, but overall it's not that much of an increase. The main part is the magic penetration. But in this case, magic penetration doesn't really mean anything. So I thought, okay, I'm taking a lot of burst damage from the Varus and the Qiyana, maybe even the Riven. She's 1 in 10, but can still do a lot of burst damage. So I'll build a Frozen Heart here, and I'll just be even harder to kill while still doing a ton of damage because they haven't built anything to defend against me. Yep, game ends up, they surrender. If they hadn't have surrendered here, I would have probably gone towards Dragon. This was our soul coming up. We go bot lane, and we can end through bot lane while they're focused on the super minions. Get all the towers down, dive them on the Nexus towers, and just a clean victory. So, that was another replay commentary, Sylas versus Qiyana mid. If you enjoyed, consider leaving a like, maybe subscribing. I'm posting a lot of this content. A comment would be greatly appreciated. Any feedback would be greatly appreciated, and I hope you enjoyed.